Hello and welcome to another in the series of videos covering the version 6 new features. As ever, you'll find details of what we've added in the help menu under the what's new area, and this document has been prepared to highlight some of the changes. We feel it's really important that you familiarize yourself with this so that you're not missing out and getting confused by anything that looks different. Okay, I'm going to cover today a major new feature which is called component markup profiles. So this is a whole new way of marking up a quote, and it's extremely flexible. So you've had for some time many different methods of markup. We can mark up using markups, we can use value add, we can use unit pricing, we can use a targeted profit, or we can create a price list and mark up in that way. What we've added now is a new way called component markups, and what that essentially means is that every single line item within your quote can be marked up individually with its own rate. So it gives you complete flexibility over how labor, materials and outwork get marked up, and which departments get marked up, and whether raw materials get marked up differently in some cases than others, and so on. So it's a very powerful tool. All you do is create a markup profile, select the method of component, and that's all you need to do. You don't need to enter any markups because they are going to be done at quote stage. So if I bring up a quote, as you can see from this workings tab, there can be many workings that are either automatically generated, indicated by the red arrow, or that you've added yourself, and they could be labor, materials or outwork. So it's going to be a real pain to sit there and apply markups to each of these line items separately. So we've added a number of tools to automate this for you. So let's look at those first. First of all, we need a default. So for every single task we need to have a default markup, otherwise somebody could forget to mark something up and that would be disastrous. So if we go into our quote tables, and let's say we go to labor and we go to studio, you can see here each of these has got a markup, and if I go into one of those records, you can see this is set here. So this is the default markup for this particular operation, and we can set different defaults for different tasks. So I've got 15% here and 22% on different things, but probably what's more likely is you want to actually have, say, 18% across the entire studio range. So let's tag all of those, and let's click on this button called markups, and let's put in 18 there and click apply, and you'll see it's applied that to all of them. So this is probably one of the first steps you'll take before using this feature. You will want to set defaults for everything. Now you can of course individually go and change certain things, but it does speed things up if you apply them en masse first of all. Same thing applies with materials. So if I go into my material database, so let's just bring one of these records up, and if we go to the estimating tab and put in our markup there, 15%. Likewise, we could tag all, click on markups and say we're going to put 12.5% on everything, except this particular thing is such a rare material, we want to mark this up by more because we know we can. So you can have different markups for different types of material and so on. Same thing with outwork. You've always been able, depending on the configuration of your system, you've always been able to set markups for outwork separately in the quote anyway. So really what we're doing is extending that to labor and materials. Okay, so how does this all link up? Well, we've created a markup profile called comp. So we can either just use that on an as and when basis, or we might want to link that to certain clients or certain job types. So if we go into our client table and choose our client and go to our accounts tab, you'll see here we have the default markup under quotes for this client. So we can set our default to be component. Click OK, and that's now saved. Equally, we could have gone to job type and use different markup profiles for different job types. So this is very useful, and it's very useful in conjunction with our detailed quote layout style, which is covered in a separate video. So for mailing jobs, for example, we can set defaults here and say that mailing job uses a default markup profile of component, whereas other job types may have no default, they'll just use the client markup as always. Okay, so let's take a quote, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just start a quote from the library. So let's say I want a folder, it's a 4-color folder, and I'm saying quote me. So what I'm then going to do is select my customer. So in selecting my customer, it's going to know that this customer is linked to a component markup profile. So when I come to the end here, you'll see component has been inserted. If I go to my workings, you'll see that my markups have been applied according to those settings that I had before. So studio, there is nothing, pre-press, print room, finishing, sundry. So what if I want to change one of these because I'm not happy? I think I can get away with a bit more. I could go into that and I can simply adjust these markups for each quantity, and that's now done. Equally, I might say, well, yeah, I want to adjust a load of these en masse, so I can now tag, right click, and choose set markups, and I might want those all to be 10%. So now the ones I tagged at 10%, and everything else is exactly as it was. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. It will use the default unless you change it. You can change it on a line by line basis, or you can tag records and apply a bulk set of markups to those, and that then gives you your final breakdown. Now naturally, if you then price target, you have gone away from those markups, so the system will attempt to back calculate what the markup should have been, so that all the workings add up to the sum total of your quote. So if I now say I'm going to sell this for 625 at this quantity, and I'm going to sell it for 1250 at this quantity, it will recalculate those workings, and it says, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to use the target, or do you want to reapply the markups? So if we're going to use the target, then it's going to recalculate all of those workings to determine what they need to be to meet the target selling price for each quantity. So as you can see, it's quite different for the different quantities as well. So this is a very powerful feature, but it needs to be used with caution. So really it's only something for skilled estimators. I wouldn't really advise you opening this up to um, unskilled people, because they have a lot more control over what is going on in the workings of the quote. Um, but I hope you can see from this that it's a very powerful feature. It's something that we've been asked for on various occasions by different clients, and it gives you a lot of flexibility. So I hope you find that useful, and thank you for watching.